Hi everyone, welcome back to this channel of crafting, crochet and knitting. My name is Nikki and welcome to my little yarniverse. So hello, welcome back if you're a returning viewer. I hope you're all enjoying the content on this channel, and if you are, please make sure that you do subscribe and leave me a comment to let me know what you are making right now in your own little craft universe. I have been working on my mum's granny square blanket. I actually paused the project slightly because I have something to show you. When I was working up the border for this and realised that I think maybe a few people have questions about how they could border over a granny square blanket. I think there's a few options out there, but I actually had a little play around with this, particularly around the join. So the outside of a granny square blanket is predominantly the outside of a granny square. You know, your chain one space, your 3 stitches, chain 1 3, chain 1 3. Except for the fact that when you've joined your granny squares together, you actually have 2 corner chains next to each other, usually separated by a mattress stitch seam or a crochet seam. And this seam is maybe about 1 stitch long. So you have this this uniform pattern getting broke by the join. That bothers me. I like to have a nice uniform border, and so I've had a little play around with the stitches to see if I can hop over that join in a way that doesn't look too problematic, kind of blends into the border, and importantly a way that sits flat. It doesn't pucker too much, or it doesn't like rise up too much because there's too many stitches, or it doesn't pull because there's too few stitches. And I think I have something. So I'm going to flip this camera around into tutorial mode and show you what I have been working on, just in case you're interested in another option for how you can border a granny square blanket. So this is one of the corners of the completed granny square blanket, and you can see that we're working on the border at the moment. Just to show you, this is how I have worked over the seam. So this, I have gone for a granny stripe or granny square style border where we're going around the work. Here is the edge of the granny square, and so we've just worked in as we would if we're making another row on the square, except when we get to this join we have the issue. So I hope that you can see that the blanket is laying quite flat. We don't seem to have any extra stitches, we don't seem to have too few stitches. And it doesn't look out of place. It looks like another set of these 3 UK triple stitches or US double stitches that make up the granny motif. So I'm going to shift around to where we haven't got that border yet so that I can show you why the join is such a problem. So on our typical granny square we have got our 3 stitches, our chain 1, 3 stitches, chain 1, and then 3 stitches. We have a chain 1 forming part of the corner, so the corner itself is actually 2 chains, but one of these is sort of attributed to this side and one to this side. So we've got 3 stitches and then effectively a chain 1 space. Then we have a seam thickness which is about 1 to 2 stitches wide. And then we have another chain 1 corner space, 3 stitches, 1 chain 1 3 1 3 1 all the way around. So you can see how the fact that this seam isn't exactly 3 stitches wide is what creates the break in the pattern. So I'm just going to work up to the corner and I'm going to show you how we're going to work this. Okay, so we have our 3 stitches into the chain space of our previous row. What we're going to do is we're going to chain 1 to get across the last group of stitches from our previous row. We're going to work 1 UK triple stitch or US double stitch into the chain corner. Okay, then we're going to yarn over, go into the corner and pull up a loop. We're going to yarn over, go into the second chain space and pull up a loop. So you should have 5 loops on your hook. We're then going to yarn over and pull through the first 3. We're going to yarn over again and pull through the next 2, and yarn over again to pull through the last 2. So you can see that this is kind of like US double crochet 2 together, but it's slightly different at the base to allow that sort of stretch across the seam. And then we finish this by just doing a US double crochet or a UK triple crochet into the second corner space. We chain 1 to go over the next set of stitches on the previous row, and then we do our 3 US double or UK triple stitches as usual to make up our granny square pattern. So I'm going to work up to the next seam and then I'll just show you that again. So we've completed the 3 stitches into the chain 1 space. We chain 1 over the 3 stitches from the previous row. We do 1 UK triple or US double stitch into the first corner space. We yarn over, we go into the first corner space and pull up a loop. We yarn over and go into the second corner space and pull up a loop, and then we have 5 loops on our hook. We yarn over and pull through the first 3. We're left with 3, so we yarn over, pull through the first 2, and then we're left with 2. We yarn over and pull through those 2, and that gives us our stitch. We finish off by doing 1 more UK triple or US double stitch into the second chain corner. We chain 1 and we continue the blanket doing our 3 stitches. Chain 1, 3 stitches. So you can see on one of these joins that the side is bracketed by these 2 ordinary stitches, these 2 triple or double crochet stitches, and then in the middle, by doing the yarn over each time that we go into the corners, we allow for the stretch across the seam a little bit better than just trying to crochet those 2 together. And then it also gives us slightly more height because we then have to do 2 more yarn over and pull through to get to the finished stitch. That gives us a little bit of extra height as well to match the 2 ordinary stitches either side of it. It means that once you kind of continue this pattern, you can see that it's really evenly pulled outwards there. It's not got too many stitches, so the fabric is not folding upwards. It's not got too few stitches such that the fabric is trying to pull in any way. It's just the right number of stitches to get across that join whilst maintaining this uniformity of the granny square or the granny stripe pattern. And when we come back round on the next rows of our border, we can just work into those chain spaces as if it was an ordinary granny square or granny stripe. There's no special thing to do on the next round of the border because we've already done all the setup that we needed to by joining across that seam in the first row. We don't need to do a row of UK double or US singles in the first place. We've actually sort of done 2 together across the seam instead, and that means that at no point are we going to be out of sync with the rest of the pattern. All of these are lined up as if it was just another round of a square. I really like that effect. I think it's very tidy that we have a granny square cluster that is completely lined up with each seam, and that all the other clusters line up with the square that they are next to. So here we have the finished blanket. I mean, I say finished, you just have to ignore the fact that none of the ends are woven in, so don't look at that side. And I'm also actually thinking about going around again with another row of the dark brown because everywhere else it's too thick, not one thick, so I just think that that would maybe look nicer, so I'm thinking about doing that. But I mean, realistically, at this point it's detail because this is the main point of the blanket. This is where all the hard work was. Doing an extra row of bordering will take me, what, like half hour. It's not that difficult, so we'll have a little play around with that, see if it looks better. I haven't quite decided yet whether to do another row just in granny square or whether to try and do like a scalloped edge or a reverse crochet, so a crab stitch. I haven't decided yet how to finish that off. But yes, that's just detailing at that point. What I actually did do when I finished off just recording the stitch that I have kind of gone with for joining at the seam was just to take a look at what the more conventional crochet 2 together would be for when you're crocheting 2 US doubles or UK triples. So hopefully this is correct, because this is the way that I have been taught. I have been taught that if you're going to crochet 2 US doubles together, you would yarn over and you would go through your first stitch, and then you would yarn over, pull up a loop, and then when you had 3 stitches on your hook, as if you're going to complete the ordinary double crochet, you would yarn over and pull through 2, but you wouldn't do that final yarn over, pull through 2 to complete the stitch. You would actually yarn over and go through your second stitch. You'd pull up another loop, you would yarn over and go through 2, and then you'd be left with 3 loops on your hook, and the last part of completing the crocheting 2 together for this stitch would be to yarn over and go through 3. So you go through 3 at the top half of the stitch, and you actually go through 2 at the bottom half of the stitch. That's different to how I did it, because I actually went through 3 at the base of the stitch, and then I did 2 joins of 2 going upwards. So I actually had the extra height on my stitch that you wouldn't have got from an ordinary crochet 2 together. Hopefully that makes sense. I do have a photo of what it looks like if you crochet 2 together, and for me, I find that because those stitches are like completed or half completed at the bottom of the stitches, there's a bigger gap, I think, between those 2, which means that there's kind of less of a single pillar kind of look to that middle stitch, which makes it look less like a granny square stitch to me, which is why I tweaked it the way I did. So if I show the picture of what mine looks like, you can see that because I actually do a tighter completion at the bottom, I go through 3 loops at the bottom, and then I have the extra height. I've kind of got more of a pillar for that middle stitch. Let's just see if I can get them both on the screen at the same time. If editing me is paying attention, I will put the conventional crochet 2 together at the top, and the stitch that I've been doing in this project at the bottom, so that you can see that actually there is that bigger gap in the conventional stitch, whereas it's a lot more of a pillar structure in the version that I have done. So hopefully that comparison helps you decide which one you would like to do. Absolutely no offence taken if you decide you prefer the conventional stitch, that's fine, it's your project. But if you're interested in making it look a little bit more like a granny square pattern when you're going over the joint, I think I'd recommend what I was talking about in this tutorial. So yes, I'm really impressed with the result. I'm really happy with it. It looks really tidy. I think, like, when I'm holding it up like this, I can't see anything obviously misaligned. Yeah, so really happy with that. I'm gonna probably leave the video here for today, because I am actually recording in the middle of the week, which I don't usually do, but I want to either finish this off or start a new project, so I'm probably going to have to go and edit this video and get this sorted. So I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope that you enjoy using this stitch. Let me know if you do in the comments. That would be great to find out if you found it helpful. If you like the look of it, that would be great to know. And otherwise, I will just see you in the next video. Bye for now, everyone.